Welcome back, everybody, to the Laugh Cry Club. I'm Joy.
I'm Rebecca.
How are you today, Rebecca? It's so good to see your face.
I am doing pretty good. It's Friday for us, so that's awesome,
Friday,
right?
TGIF, and then everyone at work is like, how is it August this weekend? So by the time this comes out, we're going to be in August, but I'm also excited to see all the internet posts of the song August by Taylor Swift, because this is like that time of year. Do you get that like fun fall feeling?
No. Do you?
I kind of do. I do get a fun fall feeling.
I think I get more anxiety than anything.
Why?
I think it's like, not that I'm going to school, but it's that time of the year. And when I start to hear like, I see the back to school commercials and all that stuff, it starts to, I mean, it's a low level anxiety. I am in tune enough with myself that I recognize that it's like, oh no, school's starting.
Oh,
like you gotta go back to school shopping, get your back to school haircut, go get your supplies. And it's like this real transition. Feels really hard, but I'm not going back to school.
Yeah, we're not going back to school, Rebecca. It's okay. But I totally understand that. I do remember that feeling in it. I think what I have is like, I have a nostalgic fall feeling because I start to see like the first, it's coming up pretty soon, I think in a couple weeks, but like when I start to see the first school buses driving around picking up kids, that's when I'm like,
you're like, that makes you happy.
It's very nostalgic. Yeah. I think we need to do some like
I need some
therapy around
therapy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be like, excuse me, ma'am, can I get on your school bus and just ride around? I gotta work through this anxiety I'm having.
We're doing some like exposure therapy. We're gonna work through this with you, Rebecca. No, but it's really, I think what I'm a fan of is the seasons changing. Seasons changing
is that, right?
I've always loved seasons changing, and I think it's because I grew up in Arizona where we had 0 seasons.
Probably.
And I'll never forget like the first time I traveled somewhere and like lived there when I was in a study abroad program when I was in college. And I'll never forget like taking so many pictures of the leaves changing because I like could not understand fall.
And they had probably a lot of trees because you all don't. I mean, there's trees there, but not tons of trees.
Not a lot.
Cactus.
We got a lot of cactus, a lot of succulents, a lot of.
I sometimes forget you grew up in Arizona, and I'm like, oh, that's so interesting.
I'm a Zony girl. Yeah, Southwest is my jam, though. I think I'll always be in the Southwest. Anyway, happy almost fall. Like we're really not there till end of September, but I do appreciate the excitement of fall. The pumpkin spice lattes that are going to be happening.
You like it?
I don't like a pumpkin spice latte myself, but I like the vibe of it.
Like, the vibe of it.
All of this vibing is like really putting me in a good mood. And it's not it's not even fall yet. We're still in the heat of summer. Maybe I'm projecting, Rebecca.
Maybe, we're going to talk about this whole idea of projection. When we meet certain people, they just get under our skin. I'm thinking like we might think that they're selfish, controlling, or like they're too big for their britches type thing. They need to settle down. And we all get these kind of ideas about other people. So the idea of projection is, what does that really say about us?
What does it say about us? And what does it actually look like? I once had a mentor say something. It was like 99% of our interactions are just projection. I mean, it's not a real stat. I think she made it up. But it just, what it really did was like made me think, because I was like, that is something to think about, is that whenever we're interacting with people, we might be just projecting onto them. What are we projecting onto them? And I'm not here to say we have to analyze every single interaction to the nth degree, but maybe think about that when you are having interactions with your friends, your coworkers. You know, we can have, like, I had a really toxic boss at my last job at Kaiser. I've talked about her before, that like completely triggered me in a way that was like, it just really tapped into my insecurities and my fears that I was doing a crappy job at all times because she treated me like crap. And so my projection was like, I'm a failure. And I was like so worried. And instead of really just standing up for myself and being like, look, lady, you're not the end all be all, and stop treating me like trash.
So in a way, it probably felt to you, because you already felt like, or you had these maybe thoughts of the inner critic, essentially. Like, you suck, you're not doing a good enough job. And then you've got somebody basically treating you like you're not doing a good enough job. So then
confirming my greatest fears.
then right, totally affirms it. Let's even kind of talk about like what is projection. It's really a defense mechanism. We use it to protect ourselves, and we've talked a lot about on this podcast about this idea that we all want to survive. Yes. And again, this is one of our survival skills. I've just been thinking more and more. I just have these like meetings at work with other various different people, and I just keep always going back to this whole need to survive. Everything just lands there, right?
Isn't it interesting? I've been thinking a lot about that too.
Yeah.
It's like it's all based on survival. Everything is based on survival.
Everything.
Yeah.
But it looks different because our brains are so developed than, say, like, a dog or a cat or whatever, some other animal.
They are just literally doing the very like lizard brain things that they have to do all day.
Yeah.
Without bringing this like layer of complex emotions on top of it.
The kind of the definition of projection as defined by the American Psychological Association, I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's really boring. It's talking about how the process of projection is really attributing one's own individual positive or negative characteristics onto somebody else. So it could be their characteristics, their effects, their impulses, and we project them on another person or group, meaning we basically take it and put it on them. That's their problem. Yeah. And it's a defense mechanism. It feels unpleasant for us. It basically enables us to keep ourselves safe or protect ourselves from feeling really shitty or trying to feel bad or that we are unable to do something, right? That it makes us maybe not feel small.
This is an interesting concept to me. And I remember reading an article, I honestly want to say it was like at least 10 to 15 years ago. It was forever ago, like in Oprah magazine, where Martha Beck, who's a really wonderful author, wrote an article called You Spot It, You Got It. And the fact that I have remembered this article and have circled back to it throughout my life over the past 10 to 15 years when I last read it says something. Like that hit home because
You're
it's like,
oh shit.
I gotta look at myself. What do you mean? And it was just so mind blowing to be like, oh, so really my insecurities when I'm criticizing someone else, if you are criticizing someone, it's like the whole thing of like, if you're pointing a finger at someone, you have three pointing back at you.
Oh, yes. Yep.
So it's true. And it's not to say that like we have to just ignore any criticism we have of other people. And that's not true. That could absolutely be valid. But can we add an added layer that is self-reflective?
And that's really what this is about, is when you recognize projections, it's helping you grow as a human. Just be more self-aware.
Is there something that you can think of? Because something that has come up for me recently that is always coming up is like diet culture. And where I project with diet culture, because right now we have all the GLP-1, the peptide, like all of that is kind of surfaced. I project so much criticism onto this because of my own, I don't want to say insecurities, but my journey with diet, exercise, eating issues over my whole lifetime. That is brought up to where I don't think it would be I wouldn't react as strongly if I didn't have that history. So that is a projection. That's an example of a projection, meaning when I see that discussion or if I see someone who's clearly lost weight, it's like, everyone's just succumbing to this diet culture where it feels like, hey, I've worked so hard to come to acceptance and I'm not using these aids, but let's not get into the weeds about like, I have had thin privilege most of my life. So I'm not talking about people who have like medical needs to be on a medication. I'm talking more about like the eating disorder culture that it is starting to, or that it has perpetuated. So I project this anger of like, look what we're doing to ourselves. And then I get kind of all spun up and judgmental where I kind of have to be like, all right, well, where am I in this whole equation? And self-reflecting on the things that maybe are not healed.
I'm glad that you bring that up because that's huge right now. And I think it's always a thing for people is diet, exercise, how they look. Everybody has their own shit about their own bodies, and then just how society kind of perpetuates this diet culture where, back in the day, it was all about like fen and all these other...
It's been always...
What is all that stuff? Like, what was that Dexatrim?
Dexatrim.
All that stuff.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And then they found out like all these terrible things happen to people. And I think I totally, support thing, if you're talking with your doctor about things or whatnot, my thought is that there's this, which I've learned is there's like this, consider this like gray market where it's like you can buy these things online, but they're not FDA approved and it's labeled for research. Humans aren't even getting injected with these, but people are injecting them and it's just kind of scary. But that's a whole side note.
Yeah. I'm like, we could do a whole series of that.
Yeah.
But it brings up a lot of our own, I don't want to say baggage because it's not bad, but it's like we always bring stuff to the party. So how can we reflect? Because the other part of this that's really important is I always bring up the extreme cases like road rage, where you're projecting anger onto a complete stranger that has absolutely nothing to do with your life other than the fact that they maybe pissed you off while driving.
Right.
A normal person, truly, that doesn't have like such baggage around anger, unresolved trauma, things that they're just maybe sad about, would not react. A healed, or at least someone who is doing the work, would not react that way. That is an example of like projecting, extreme projection onto a complete stranger, instead of being like, I'm getting really triggered by someone. Like, where in your life have you been triggered by someone who did you wrong?
Right.
That you feel personally attacked. Like, that to me is like, all right, let's break that down in therapy versus stopping in the middle of the road and trying to attack a stranger.
I think for me, something that's kind of coming up that I don't think I get raged about it, but I get really, really angry about it is, say, we've got this thing where all these like e-bikes or these propelled electric type motorcycles.
I think every city is dealing with this right now.
Oh my God, it's a nightmare. It's on next door. Everybody's complaining.
Oh yeah,
on
everyone's
the bike
pissed
path,
off.
running
The
people
cops
over.
are like pulling kids over. Yeah.
Yes, I saw a couple of weeks ago, a cop came down our road chasing after some kid. They didn't even stop. It was crazy. I think with like that stuff, what kind of rages me out is if I look at it, it's like I have a real strong sense of following the rules. I think people should follow the rules, and when they don't, it pisses me off. And so then I have to look at myself, well, why does that bother me so much? And then if I, it's kind of like maybe perhaps why it makes me mad is because I wished I could not follow the rules. Like I would be able to allow myself to be like, I don't care. I'm going to break the rules today. Yeah. But I care too much that I can't do it, right? Yeah. So that's like we see that when other people are breaking the rules, we're like, for me, I wish I could do that. Yeah. That's why we get mad about it, because it's like they're able to express themselves a certain way.
There's
or like,
a certain,
like the bragger, like that could mean if that irritates you, like maybe that's upsetting because you feel like you can't brag because you're used to making yourself small, or you were taught that way.
Right. Like bragging is so braggadocious, and that you like are so full of yourself if you brag, versus like
we don't like it. Most of us hate it. We're like, guys, they're such an ass.
So full of themselves. Yeah.
You're so like, you need to get off your high horse.
Yes. And it's funny because it's so easy to project, because we live in the social media world, that we project onto strangers, where like the things that, I don't want to say trigger, it feels like a strong word, but like the things that really kind of aggravate me or really activate me, like the girlies on Instagram that are like, I make 6 figures from doing like positive quotes or empowering, or like empowerment coaching or manifestation coaching. Like those are the things that drive me crazy, where I'm like, I guess they're maybe not harming anyone, but there's a part of me that just feels like they're fraudulent. And I think what it comes down to is I get on my high horse about having an education, because I'm like, that's important to me, because I'm like, I have put in the work. I have over 20 years of experience. I have a master's degree. I have a lot of continuing education under my belt over the past 20 years. So that to me is like the unfairness, maybe kind of to your point too, is like there's a little bit of unfairness of like, I've noticed that over my life. I have worked so hard, and you just waltz in here and you're making all this money for doing something that requires no degree. Like that's where I go.
Yeah. So maybe also there's like a bit of jealousy there. Man, people really hate admitting when we're jealous.
Yeah. It's true though. And it's like, because jealousy feels like a really ugly trait.
It feels ugly. Yeah. Everything is a continuum, but I'm thinking like jealousy. Sometimes I'll be like, oh, I'm really jealous of you. Like you get to go, whatever. Say you're going on the whole Eras tour to see Taylor Swift every single thing. I'd be like, wow, I'm really jealous of that. I wish I could do that.
Right.
But then there's this other part where it's like we don't even recognize maybe we're jealous because we are maybe envying somebody else in this situation. Like they can just be like, hey, I made myself, I don't have an education. I may be making this stuff up, but I am an influencer now and I'm going to help you manifest everything. And I am making $1 million doing it.
Right. And just buy my course.
It's like, man, I wish I could do that.
Yeah, it feels like a little like bamboozly too. So I don't know. It's interesting because that is where we have to look at and self-reflect on where does it come up the most for you? Is it like for us, we're talking a lot about like unfairness or feeling jealous that we really can project those insecurities. It is very easy to project. And speaking of Taylor Swift even talks about this where she's like, artists are just constantly like everyone is going to project onto you. That is just the nature of the job. I would argue being a human is the nature of the job of projecting. Like you are going to project onto other people. It is just the nature of being a human being in this world. What do we do about it? Like now that we know that we do this, I always say to clients that do this or even just have a behavior where it's like once we know it, once we are aware of it, the awareness is such an amazing tool to just be like, I'm aware that I do this. Now what? Like, what do we do next?
What do we do? So what do we do? We know what this is. We know that it is to protect us and that when we grew up, we've learned that there's acceptable parts of us and we've learned that there are parts of us that are not acceptable. Like we were all taught as kids, like we were encouraged to show different things. And some of us were discouraged to show different things.
Yeah.
And what do we do about it? I think what we do is we get really in tune with ourselves by just looking at ourselves and breaking things down. One way I think it's really helpful to do this is by looking at, there's a kind of a way, like looking at hidden traits and then what is the feeling you're having, then identifying what's the self-protection here. So for example, let's say something that irritates me is, and a statement might be, I really hate lazy people. Pure lazy. Like you identify them as being lazy. And so, for instance, in this, like a hidden trait might be that I'm hiding my own laziness feelings from my conscious mind. Because there's like a subconscious, conscious mind we all have. Conscious meaning I'm totally aware. Subconscious is probably about, I don't know the actual percentage, but I'm going to say like 90% of your mind is subconscious. You don't even know what it's doing because our brains are just so powerful.
Well, like last week we were talking about lazy being like a belief and a criticism, you know? Yeah.
I may be hiding that from my conscious mind. So subconsciously, I'm hiding my own lazy feelings. And so I might have a strong anger at other people who show these traits. Then if I look at what's the self-protection here is that my mind blames other people to protect my own self-image. Want to pick apart other people that I think are lazy, or I label them that way because of my own self-image is that I'm not lazy. But then behind that, maybe I do want to be lazy. And I'll say that. Sometimes I'm like, gosh, I wish I could just be like that.
Right. Or
I wish I could lay around and do nothing and not think about my list.
Yeah. It's really interesting how we can learn so much about ourselves if we kind of go there, because at the beginning we said this, it's pretty uncomfortable. It's not fun to look at these uglier sides of ourselves. The beauty of this, guys, is that we all have it. No one is free from this judgment, this projection. And that is a wonderful lesson if we can turn it into a lesson. You know, when things pop up, whether it be at work, with our friends, whatever. To me, it's a feeling where I'm like, oh, I'm starting to feel either envious or judgmental. And then I go, all right, what is this about? Like asking myself the question, all right, what is this really about? And it might be like, it's mostly jealousy, it's envy, it's whatever.
Yeah. Is this about them or me?
Exactly.
That is the hard part. I think that's the hard part too of when you are in therapy. Like I've been on the opposite side of the couch as the client. And when the therapist is like, so what does that say about you? It's like, geez, really? I have to now acknowledge this part of me that I really don't want to talk about. It's hard. You basically have to acknowledge that, you've got some feelings that other people or society deems as being bad. Like we've labeled them bad for some reason. Right. We've had them. But really, we just need to acknowledge them and not, as you talk about, your meaning maker, don't give it a meaning.
Don't give it a meaning.
It doesn't mean you're bad. It just means this is the thought. It's creating some not so pleasant emotions for you. So how are we going to fix that for you?
Yeah. And on the extreme side, I think this is where people who have very, 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 very strong held beliefs, whether it be around religion, political beliefs, I think this is where it turns really ugly, where people project because they really aren't sitting back and going, what is this really about? And this is where we see the extreme side.
Yeah.
Like we see on the internet of people being like, whether it be against certain religions, against sexuality, against race, against whatever it is, identities, people are projecting. And I would argue that there are parts of ourselves, like Carl Jung calls it the shadow self,
yes,
that we're kind of rejecting. So it's like, okay, so what about this specific race or this specific religion is not comfortable for you? What is not comfortable for you? And if you really, 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 really start to break it down, kind of like analyze and track it to what is maybe uncomfortable for that person, they will eventually be like, actually, I don't really have a good answer. Or they'll be like, oh, this ties to my belief when I was a kid that this was right and wrong or whatever.
Yeah.
But then we get into a whole nother can of worms where it's like people will then defend their beliefs to the death because the cognitive dissonance is too great. They have the disconnect of like what I believe, but actually what is truth. Like it's so obvious. They can't admit that they're wrong. Admitting that you're wrong kind of like upsets the apple cart to be like, well, my whole life, my beliefs were wrong. But that's okay. Like it's okay to be like,
they can't face it. They can't face it.
They can't face it because your whole life you've believed. I think of like acquaintances in my life who maybe have left a very strict religion, but it took a long time to leave because they were like, I can't make sense of the fact that my whole life I believe this so strongly.
That's indoctrination.
And then I was wrong. Like that's a lot to swallow. Like that is a lot to absorb, to realize that your whole life was maybe like based on a lie.
Right. That is really huge. And the people that can do that, I mean, you just have to think about like how much work they had to do. That's really huge. And I think we should probably give people more props for that actually do it, that like have made the turn and realized this whole thing was a lie. I fed into it because it brings up so many terrible things that you have to face about yourself.
And shame and like, how could I have believed this? And like, yeah.
I mean, and then you're providing meaning to all this, that you are a terrible person. Mm-hmm. Why should you exist? Maybe I should just die, et cetera, et cetera. But I think I'm really glad you brought this point up because I feel like I can see it when people are, let's say, like whatever's going on in the political climate, or let's say about like equality for everybody. We have a certain group of people that double down and they get so angry and hateful about just equality, right? They can't see it, but I feel like from my perspective, and this maybe because my therapist brain, I'm able to walk it back. And of course, some of this is assumptions because I'm not actually talking to that person. They're not my client, but I'm walking it back to like that shadow self. Like what is the underlying potential driver of all of this hate and rage? And when it comes to like equality, I think I walk it back to the shadow self being basically, I am afraid of losing something.
Yeah.
Because we go back to survival.
Yes.
And their survival is, I have to maintain this hold on whatever I got to be relevant to survive.
Like if you really whittle it down to these like groups that are so hateful towards other groups, you and I could sit here and I'm like, it makes no sense to me because I understand that the survival doesn't match what they're doing. You know, like they think that...
No.
Show me the evidence that your race is at risk because other races exist. Show me when we have first of all, I don't care what kind of mixed bag we have in this United States. I don't need races to be the same. What does that accomplish? Help me understand. But So that to me is like, we can have these conversations, but if you question someone who is so steeped in that, it's almost like they double down because the pain is too great to acknowledge that they're wrong.
They can't go there.
No.
That's why they just get angrier and louder, because what they're doing is when you reject these pieces of you, they get louder and louder.
Louder. So that's the double down. People just keep doubling down.
Yeah, because they can't express them.
Right.
Which is really, it's their fear of being extinguished.
Being wrong. Yeah, because if you're wrong, if you all of a sudden are like, actually, I changed my mind, like I was totally wrong and steeped into this and I caused a lot of pain, that's a lot to just sit with.
It's a lot of personal responsibility.
And accountability.
You also then potentially lose your community.
Yes.
Your whole identity shifts.
Identity.
You lost who you are, what you thought you were.
I mean, now we could go into a whole diatribe about identity. Right. Like identity is just like you're wrapped up. I think of like people who've been maybe in like a group like the KKK or something where it's like that. If that is your whole identity and that's all you know, and you leave that, you and I could sit here and be like, good for you. But like someone who's going through an experience of like maybe leaving a group, a religion. I mean, there's been documentaries about this with like Scientology and how hard it is to leave and how actually they stalk you. And if you leave a group like that, they probably bully you and probably threaten to kill you. Like it's just the stakes are really high. So our point with all of this too is just like the identity wrapped up in your belief system, the projection that you do because you have to survive. You're trying to survive.
It's a survival mechanism. And it's just projection is a label for this thing that we do because we all do it. We've talked a little bit about the negative way that we project, but it also is, there's a positive aspect of it. When we idolize certain people, that's positive. Or you're like, gosh, Joy, I wish I was as confident as you. You just seem really confident. Like you do this podcast, you've done these other events for your job. I wish I could do that. Or wow, that person's really creative. I wish I could make art like that. That's projection too, because you're wishing that you had that.
You're recognizing something that you desire to have.
Yes.
Yeah. So wrapping up this episode, let's each kind of share maybe like a trigger of ours that like we can even look more into as far as projections that we do in our life. Like we mentioned lazy, so we can't pick that one.
Okay.
We've already done that. Ooh, we both have lazy as like a trigger.
You have a thing, you don't like lazy people.
Yeah.
All right.
But not in a sense of like everyone has to be running marathons or anything, but it's just more of like get up and be a contributing person of society. That's kind of where I go.
I know. I'm talking about like simple daily
stuff. Yeah.
Like,
just be a contributing person to society.
You know, it's everybody has their own thing. Gosh, that's a good question. Like, do you have one yourself?
I think yes, and it's kind of like cringy to talk about, but I still like my projection is like because I've been podcasting for so long and we put so much work into podcasting, my projection is always like why are we not as popular as like Mel Robbins, cuz she's stupid.
Because she's making shit up.
Yeah, that's where I project because I'm like, you are such a liar. You make stuff up, and you're like everything's smoke and mirrors. Like so that it's like a jealousy of the attention. You're not a real
mental health professional,
right? That's where I go. So that's maybe one of my projections. It's not like it's not a pretty side of me, but I do shit talk Mel Robbins under my breath a lot.
Goodness.
And on this podcast, apparently.
I really kind of go back to rules or kindness. That shit irritates me.
When people aren't
respectful or kind. And I'm just like, why can't you just be a nice person? So another idea is when I think people are controlling or micromanaging. I can't stand to be micromanaged.
Yeah, I think a lot of people relate to that one. It's like, get up off me.
Yeah, like, I need to be able to breathe. And I'm like, what is that? What am I trying to protect? Maybe I'm trying to protect, because I have this view of myself that I'm a really easygoing person. I think I'm really easy to get along with. Do you think I'm easy to get along with? Would you say I'm easygoing, chill?
Yes.
Like, okay,
you're super easy to get along with.
Of course, you're just telling me that now because
I honestly like from the like first trip we did together, I was like, we even said that to each other.
Well.
Like we travel very well together. Like we're both just like, what do you want to do? I don't care. Okay, let's do this. Okay, you know, like.
Yeah. Yeah, we're just like, yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it.
And I think it's that maybe since controlling people bother me, that maybe I'm protecting this view of myself of being easygoing. You know, like if I'm labeling somebody as bossy or controlling or micromanaging me, that it's a protection because I'm trying to protect this image I have of myself. When maybe there's some jealousy because I want to boss people around. I don't know.
But also, do you think it's about like you know what you're doing? Like you can control your own life?
Yeah, and I think it kind of goes back to you're talking about education. Like I'm educated. I've had CEUs. If I don't know, I will ask.
Yeah. Like don't question my intelligence.
Yes, bingo. Because that's what I feel like it's doing. Is questioning my intelligence.
It feels like they're questioning your intelligence. You don't mind if people were like question you, but if they're questioning your intelligence, that's like a threat to your intelligence. When you're like, do you not trust that I know what I'm doing?
They question your integrity, and it's like
that's a hard one too. Yeah,
because you know, I feel pretty confident in my integrity, who I am as a person, my core being, and I believe in it so much. Like I'm easygoing, I'm friendly, I'm compassionate, I love people. I'm like, yeah, let's come on in, everybody. I love diversity. I'll just be in a community. I'm very much team oriented rather than like let me stake my claim and keep everybody out. That just irritates me.
When someone misunderstands you, that feels bad.
Yes.
Because I get so triggered when someone misunderstands me because it's just like,
how could you misunderstand me? I'm so cool.
Or it's like when you're trying to get your point across and they're just like totally not getting. Yeah, that's when I get like, oh my gosh, how do you not understand what I'm trying to say?
Right. Yeah. And it's like, because then I think then we start to attach meanings to it. Like they think I'm an idiot. They don't think I'm educated.
Right.
Blah, 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 which may not be true, but that's what it feels like. So, you know, and then we label them as being bossy or controlling because it's a way to protect ourselves.
Okay. So the goal for all of us, when we feel these feelings bubbling up and we're projecting onto someone else, or you're like making a judgment, making a snap judgment, and go, I wonder, just to be a little curious about it. You don't need to overanalyze every interaction, but we just want you to be a little curious. To be like, I wonder what that's about. What is this about? Think again to the Martha Beck article. And if I can find this old article,
you can. I've read it. I read it. I found it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it still exists. Oh my gosh, it's amazing.
And it was on like Oprah, whatever.
Good. It's amazing. So if you can go, I'll post the link in the show notes of you spot it, you got it. We just appreciate you being here as always. You can find us at Laugh Cry Club on social media. Email us laughcryclub@gmail.com if you would like us to answer any of your burning questions. We can keep it anonymous if you don't want people to know who you are.
Yeah.
Use us as a resource. If you have a question for a therapist, we'd be happy to help you out. So we just appreciate your time. The easiest way to support our show is to share it with a friend, leave a rating and review on whatever podcast platform you're listening on. And we will see you next week, and be a better human.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.